Before smartphones became part of everyday life, American mornings felt noticeably calmer and slower. Across the United States, people woke up without mobile alarms buzzing beside their beds. There were no glowing screens to check, no overnight notifications, and no pressure to scroll before even standing up. Life before smartphones in America began quietly and naturally, with still air and unhurried movement. During this period of recent American history, daily routines followed a slower rhythm. People checked the time on wall clocks or wristwatches, brewed coffee without distraction, and prepared for the day without digital interruption. News came from newspapers or the radio, not from endless feeds. This slower modern life in the USA allowed space for silence, gentle thought, and calm moments that now feel rare. Without social media or constant notifications, attention moved softly. American households started the day focused on simple, familiar tasks rather than screens. This peaceful routine shaped how people experienced time, creating balance and patience in everyday life. It was a quiet chapter of modern history, often overlooked, yet deeply comforting. Life before smartphones in America was shaped by simple, predictable routines. Across the USA, days were organized without digital reminders, alerts, or buzzing devices. Schedules lived quietly in memory, and time moved at a human pace. Mornings felt unhurried, and conversations happened face-to-face without interruption. Families spoke to one another while preparing breakfast. There were no notifications to interrupt conversations and no feeds to scroll through. Daily life before the digital age encouraged presence, patience, and calm awareness. Even small moments felt complete because nothing demanded immediate attention. In workplaces and homes, routines stayed consistent. Appointments were remembered, notes were written on paper, and phone calls were short and intentional. Mental noise stayed low, allowing people to focus on one moment at a time. This slow, modern life in the USA created natural pauses throughout the day. As afternoons passed, time continued to feel wide open. There was no constant checking and no pressure to respond instantly. The mind moved gently from one task to another. This quiet rhythm defined everyday life before smartphones. Evenings arrived slowly and predictably. Families returned home from work and settled into familiar routines. Television programs aired at fixed times, and once they ended, homes naturally grew quiet. Some people read books, others listened to the radio, and many simply sat together in silence. Without smartphones, evenings felt longer and calmer. There was no scrolling, no alerts, and no glowing screens pulling attention away. Lights were dimmed room by room, and rest arrived without effort. This calm pattern allowed the body and mind to slow down together. Conversation happened face-to-face and ended naturally. Silence felt normal and comfortable. Without constant stimulation, boredom existed, and boredom often turned into rest. This is why evenings from this era feel so comforting today. Social life before mobile phones felt grounded, patient, and unhurried. People met each other without sending messages ahead of time. Plans were simple, flexible, and relaxed. Waiting felt normal, and silence did not feel uncomfortable. Friendships grew through presence rather than constant connection. People showed up at familiar places, trusting others would arrive. There were no screens to check and no updates to follow. Time passed slowly, naturally, and without urgency. Conversations lasted longer because nothing else demanded attention. Eye contact mattered. Pauses were accepted, and listening felt complete. Public spaces felt peaceful, with shared, quiet moments. This forgotten modern history reflects a slower pace that now feels distant. As night arrived, homes across America slowly became quiet. There was no blue light glowing from screens and no digital noise filling the room. Evenings ended gently, guided by habit and routine instead of technology. Life before smartphones allowed the body to rest naturally. Televisions were turned off, lights were dimmed, and silence settled in. There were no late notifications and no endless scrolling. Thoughts slowed down without effort, and rest simply arrived. Bedrooms were dark, quiet, and undisturbed. Families followed familiar routines, preparing for bed at the same time each night. Mornings came earlier and evenings ended sooner. This natural rhythm defined life before smartphones in America. There was no pressure to stay connected and no fear of missing updates. The day was allowed to end completely. In this forgotten chapter of recent American history, rest was respected. Sleep was part of life, not something postponed. The absence of digital noise created space for stillness. This is boring history for sleeping, and that is why it works. Nothing dramatic happens, nothing interrupts the calm. Life moves gently, predictably, and quietly. A peaceful closing chapter of life before smartphones. A reminder of a slower America that once existed. Slow history storytelling designed for calm listening, peaceful minds, and restful nights.